The story begins with Su-hong practicing martial arts. After receiving a punch, his friend cannot accept the stinging pain he feels and asks if Su-hong has perhaps reached the micro-level of mastery. Su-hong replies that he attained this level just 2 days ago. In this world, the degree of mastery for any martial art is divided into 5 levels: basic, proficient, micro-level, mastered, and perfect. His friend comments that this is incredible, as no one in the class can compare to him when it comes to the Vajra fist. Su-hong asks his friend if he has rested enough since they need to continue training, but his friend calls him a cultivation maniac who does not know how to stay still. His friend says goodbye to everyone and leaves. At the same time, teacher Lee finds Su-hong. The teacher asks why he has not yet paid the 30,000 registration fee for the martial arts department, as registration closes next Monday. He asks teacher Lee if he can have a few more days, but the man replies that although he knows the family is struggling, he cannot change the rules. Su-hong continues his training while thinking about the 30,000 registration fee. He reflects on his past, recalling how his parents died in a ferocious beast disaster when he was only 3 years old. Since that tragedy, he has lived with his uncle and aunt. After they learned he had a talent for martial arts, they dedicated themselves fully to supporting his training. In this era where ferocious beasts run rampant, being a martial artist is an absolutely high-income profession. He is training to give them a better life, but his pursuit is currently making their lives even harder. Eventually, he returns home. Before entering, he overhears his aunt and uncle discussing the rent, as they want to delay the rent payment so they can prioritize paying Su-hong's registration fee. They know Hong's talent is so good that he will become successful in the future, so they cannot hold the child back. His aunt even suggests stopping her medication since it will not cure her anyway, which would save a lot of money. However, her husband refuses the idea, stating he will work another job and telling her to just rest to recover her health. Su-hong feels terrible hearing this conversation. He slaps his own face to compose himself before opening the door and announcing his arrival. His aunt asks why he practiced until so late and tells him to rest while she prepares food. He goes to his room and realizes his family has sacrificed enough for him. He decides he must solve his own problems, noting that a martial artist can earn tens of thousands in just a few days. He considers that there is only one specific place to go. The next day, he arrives at the underground martial arena. The announcer welcomes the audience and introduces the one defending the ring as Mr. Minotaur. She declares that if he wins 4 matches in a row, he can take home 60,000 in prize money. The crowd wonders who this person is, assuming he must be a rookie. The hostess asks him to show some passion to heat up the atmosphere, but he does not understand how to do that. She tells him to provoke and curse the audience, thinking that rookies are troublesome. Su-hong immediately roars that below the level of a martial artist, he is invincible, and he calls the weaklings in that place to come and fight him. The audience finds him arrogant and predicts he will die without even realizing it. Because of that, everyone begins asking for someone to kill the Minotaur, shouting, "Screw the Minotaur." He realizes the killing intent in the underground arena is heavy, but he knows this is the only way to quickly gather his tuition fees. A fighter enters the arena and vows to play with him. Su-hong observes that while the opponent's momentum is strong, his lower body seems unstable and easy to win against. As the man charges, he also gets ready and strikes him directly under the chin, throwing him out of the arena. He calls for the next opponent as the announcer celebrates his first win. The crowd cheers and another fighter steps up, warning Su-hong that he will not have the same luck. Su-hong judges the opponent's physique and decides he can use this man to test the power of his Vajra fist. The 2 fighters charge and collide their fists, but he notices an opening. Because the man used too much force with his upper body, he left his waist exposed. Su-hong delivers a kick that sends the fighter flying out of the arena. He demands the next challenger immediately. Meanwhile, a man watching from a balcony notes that the boy is not even a quasi-martial artist, yet his strength exceeds that of the average martial apprentice. On stage, Su-hong wins one more time. The organizer thinks someone like him is perfect for match fixing. His subordinate offers to take care of him, and the man warns him not to reveal that he has already been promoted to martial artist. In the ring, Su-hong reflects that dealing with these ordinary apprentices is not difficult with his micro-level Vajra fist. If he wins one more match, he will get the 60,000 prize money. Suddenly, the crowd shouts that White Fox is coming into the ring. People wonder if he is not a quasi-martial artist and if his participation constitutes cheating. Su-hong becomes concerned because this match looks difficult, though he knows he cannot lose. White Fox smiles and tells him not to be afraid because he knows how to pull his punches. The final match begins and both fighters launch forward. Su-hong realizes his cultivation realm is lower, so he decides he must go all out with his very first move. They collide their fists and he immediately realizes his opponent is not a quasi-martial artist. He becomes worried because the man is a true martial artist who deliberately suppressed his vitality. White Fox inhales and unleashes his Thunder Rush Fist. The terrifying power manages to seriously injure Su Hong, causing him to groan in pain. The audience recognizes the 3-echo Thunder Rush Fist and concludes that the Minotaur is done for. White Fox continues to attack frantically, while Su Hong focuses entirely on defending. He knows that if this continues, he will lose, so he desperately searches for a chance to counterattack. However, a blow breaks through his guard and strikes his face, throwing him to the other side of the arena. He feels his consciousness fading as White Fox places a foot on his head, telling him that he will not earn a single cent from this match, but mentions that his teacher is inviting him to join them. White Fox promises a great future if he agrees to fix matches, warning him to think carefully because he cannot afford the price of refusal. Su Hong asks if they really call themselves martial artists while doing things like this. White Fox takes this as a refusal and decides he has no choice but to cripple him so he can never become a martial artist. But before the kick lands, Su Hong feels an incredible pressure and manages to dodge the attack. He stands up as a red aura surrounds him, declaring that he will become a martial artist and cannot fall here. White Fox is shocked that he can still stand after taking a Thunder Rush Fist. Su Hong cannot let the sacrifices of his uncle and aunt go to waste. He refuses to accept a future where he gives up his faith. A system interface appears, asking what he is willing to sacrifice for his family and his faith. He replies that he will give everything, and an incredible power begins to surge from his body. Suddenly, Su Hong feels as if he has been transported to another realm. He opens his eyes and wonders what kind of place this is, as a massive, radiant figure stands before him. This giant being declares that he will grant him a chance. A golden aura flows toward him, materializing into a system interface that displays his name and various attributes. He wonders if this screen behaves like a touchscreen, so he decides to click on the Missions tab. The mission is titled Way of the Arena, described as a path to becoming a powerhouse. The objective requires him to polish his martial arts by raising his Vajra Fist to the Mastered level and increasing his Floating Light Palm and Void Step to the Micro level. Su Hong notes that this is a beginner's guide mission. Suddenly, a punch flies toward him and he dodges in surprise. He realizes he is facing a clone of himself that is using the Vajra Fist with a refinement that matches textbook standards. Not wanting to miss a chance to learn, he moves to counterattack. However, the clone intercepts his arm and demonstrates the correct form for the technique. Su Hong takes the impact of a blow and stumbles back. He checks his system and notices that his progress with the Vajra Fist has reached 10%. Since it was only 7% before, he cannot believe it is improving this fast. He realizes this is an ideal opportunity to quickly upgrade his martial skills, so he charges back into battle. The two begin exchanging blows frantically, and Su Hong's techniques level up as the fight continues. Eventually, he reaches 100% proficiency, bringing Floating Light Palm and Void Step to the micro level, while his Vajra Fist reaches Mastered status. As he defeats his clone, it disappears. A system notification congratulates him for completing the mission and issues the rewards, asking if he agrees to return to reality. He agrees, and back in the arena, his body overflows with an incredible aura. White Fox moves to attack, annoyed that his target is acting mysterious. He uses his Thunder Rush Fist, but Su Hong finds his movements far too slow. He throws a punch that shatters White Fox's mask and knocks him unconscious. The audience watches in total disbelief. Su Hong stands over the defeated White Fox. He turns around and simply states that he wants to receive his prize money since he won the fourth match. The announcer confirms the victory and congratulates the Minotaur for successfully defending the ring and winning the 60,000 grand prize. Up in a private box, a man is confused as to how a martial apprentice could cultivate the Vajra Fist to the Mastered level when most martial artists cannot. He orders his guards to follow our boy and uncover his true identity. Su Hong leaves the arena and quickly realizes he is being followed. He mocks their attempt to track him and uses his speed to vanish. The two guards are baffled by his disappearance, though they are determined to find him. Su Hong now knows that someone is trying to track him, so he waits for some time and makes his way home an hour later. His uncle and aunt are frightened by the large stack of money, asking if he robbed a bank. He tells them he is working as a sparring partner at a dojo where the master decided to sponsor his studies. He asks his uncle and aunt to trust him, and they are amazed, believing their nephew would never lie and has a promising future. Later that night, he sits on the rooftop, reflecting that his registration fee and rent are now covered. He is relieved that his aunt's medical expenses are no longer an immediate worry. He credits the system for turning his danger into safety, but notes that his other attributes have not changed yet. He investigates his martial value, which sits at 67. A notification informs him that he obtained these points by defeating a higher-level opponent, and that they can be used to increase vitality and martial skills. He tries to use it and begins placing points into his vitality until it reaches 90. Suddenly, he feels his body overflowing with an incredible aura and realizes he has reached the level of a quasi-martial artist with 90 vitality. He decides to dump all remaining points into his vitality stat. Afterward, he notes that his physical strength has improved significantly and his wounds have fully healed. Feeling endless strength, he decides to find a place to test his current power. He heads to the Star City #1 High School outdoor drill ground to use a Tier 1 combat power tester. He prepares to use 70% of his strength for the first punch. He concentrates his energy and strikes the machine, but he breaks into a cold sweat when the device shatters from the impact. Su-hong worries that he might have to pay for the damage and flees like a madman when someone nearby shouts about the noise. An old man in pajamas arrives at the scene and is horrified to find the smashed tester. He fumes with rage, assuming the culprits are Chen Shan and Li Tu, since only those two little brats are capable of doing this in the school. He screams, promising to educate them properly once school begins. The next day, a large group of students gathers in the gymnasium of Star City #1 High School. At the back, Su-hong asks his friend why Chen Shan appears to have been beaten up. His friend whispers that the principal discovered Chen Shan broke the outdoor training grounds tester. Since Chen Shan refused to admit to the deed, the principal punished him, though Su-hong realizes the other student took the blame for his actions. The principal calls for silence and introduces his old comrade-in-arms, Chen Tian, who is a Tier 3 martial artist. He announces that the guest will teach everyone the Thunder Rush Fist, which is a C-rank technique. The students celebrate, as this is their first time seeing a Tier 3 martial artist, and such techniques usually cost hundreds of thousands in tuition at private dojos. Su-hong remembers how this is the same move White Fox used during their battle, noting its incredible power. He realizes he must seize this rare opportunity to learn the skill for free, since if one wanted to learn this kind of C-rank martial art outside, the registration fee alone would be at least several $100,000. Chen Tian warns the class that he will demonstrate the technique from start to finish 10 times, and how much they learn depends entirely on their own efforts. He takes his stance and throws a punch to demonstrate, explaining that at the basic level, a punch will emit a sound of thunder. At the proficient level, a punch emits 3 sounds of thunder while the microlevel produces 5 sounds. He concludes by showing his current realm, the mastered level, which produces 7 sounds. He explains that reaching the perfect realm allows for 9 sounds, but tells the students not to be overly ambitious, since reaching basic today would be a success. The students begin their practice, and several hours later, they are completely exhausted with almost no progress. Su-hong's friend groans that he cannot learn it at all because C-rank martial arts are too difficult. He asks Su-hong if he managed to learn it, but notices his friend has suddenly vanished from the gym. Meanwhile, Chen Shan successfully reaches the basic level, causing his peers to wonder how his brain is built to belong to such a genius. The principal points out Chen Shan to Chen Tian, calling him the school's #1 genius and asking if the warrior is interested in guiding him. Chen Tian finds the suggestion amusing, nodding that in other cities, this level of talent is only considered average. Later, the two men walk outside, and Chen Tian complains that he wasted his time because the batch of students is too weak. The principal argues that having even one student reach basic is good enough and asks if he was expecting to find a top-tier genius there. Chen Tian says that martial Dao cultivation is extremely cruel and talent is simply too important, while the principal agrees that relying only on hard work without opportunity is impossible. Their conversation is interrupted when they hear a sound and they see Su-hong standing nearby, his body crackling with intense electricity. Chen Tian shouts in shock, recognizing the 7-sound Thunder Rush Fist, and wondering how an expert of that level is at the school. While the principal insists it is impossible as he has never heard of such a specialist, but points out the boy is wearing a student's uniform. Chen Tian is baffled that a student reached the mastered level after only half a day of instruction. Our boy throws a punch, and the principal panics as he hears 9 distinct sounds of thunder. Chen Tian becomes extremely excited, realizing he has just witnessed the perfect realm. He gathers energy in his own fist and performs the technique again, successfully producing 8 sounds. He declares that the student's 9-sound Thunder Rush Fist gave him the inspiration he needed to finally break through his own limits. The two run toward the student to see who he is, but by the time they arrive, Su-hong has already gone. Already far away, he thinks about how exhausting it is to cultivate a C-rank martial skill compared to the D-rank Vajra Fist. He checks his system and sees that his Thunder Rush Fist has reached the perfect level. He considers how he can earn more martial value to break through to the martial artist rank, wondering if normal sparring will be enough, or if he needs to engage in life-and-death battles. Sometime later, he arrives at his workplace, the Raging Thunder Dojo. Inside, he finds several martial artists training with spears. A fellow martial artist asks why he came in today, and Su-hong replies that he just wanted to practice a little. He notices a purple-haired boy defeating another trainee. And the purple-haired boy says, "You dare to say my teacher teaches badly. If your comprehension is poor, admit it." "Why make excuses here?" Su asks what is going on, and a guy explains that Li Yan's teacher is a newly arrived instructor who is very strong but despises commoners like them and teaches carelessly. Li Yan, his disciple, is also very powerful and arrogant. Li Yan prepares to strike a defenseless opponent, but Su-hong intervenes by grabbing his arm and telling him to stop. Irritated, Li Yan challenges him to a fight in the ring. He agrees, but the instructor enters the room and orders the class to begin. Li Yan turns around, saying the boy's luck is good, and Su-hong thinks that this person is a bit too arrogant. The instructor announces that today is the last day he will teach the Raging Sea Spear technique, and he will only perform it once. He takes a stance and thinks to himself that demonstrating it once is enough, since he believes the students are trash who cannot learn it anyway. Su-hong watches with focus, realizing that the core of the technique involves a momentum like endless giant waves. After the brief demonstration, the instructor leaves the students to practice on their own. The students are furious at the lack of instruction, but Su-hong focuses and begins performing the movements perfectly. As he moves his spear, a water-like aura flows with it. As he continues, the others are amazed, calling him a prodigy. They wonder if they are really too stupid to learn it. Because of this noise, Li Yan returns, asking why they are making noise and who learned it. He is surprised to see Su-hong has actually learned the spear technique. Li Yan thinks that he needs to find the boy's depth, as it would be interesting if he is really a genius. He offers to give him some pointers. Su agrees, so Li Yan holds his spear and every other guy moves back. One warns Su-hong not to be impulsive since Li Yan is very strong despite his bad character, and Su tells him not to worry. He prepares himself, saying, "Please enlighten me." Li Yan attacks using the micro-level of the Raging Sea Spear technique. Su takes a deep breath and counters, activating the Raging Sea Spear technique at the proficient level. Li Yan is stunned, unable to understand how a beginner could have reached that level of mastery so quickly. As Su-hong attacks and the two strikes collide in a powerful clash, Li Yan cannot understand how someone who is not even a martial artist can reach the proficient level in this technique so quickly. Our boy sees an opening and manages to knock the spear out of his opponent's hands with a swift movement. A system notification appears, informing him that he gained 35 martial value points for defeating a higher-level opponent, as he finally understands that ordinary sparring also yields points and considers finding more people to spar with in the future. Li Yan falls to his knees, thinking it is absolutely impossible for someone to cultivate the Raging Sea Spear technique to the proficient realm so rapidly. He questions all his years of training, wondering what his hard work counts for if he can be surpassed so easily. Still furious, he leaps up to attack because he feels humiliated and useless. Before he can strike Su-hong, his master shouts for him to stop. The teacher approaches and delivers a sharp slap to Li Yan's face, telling his disciple that if he does not dare to face failure, then he is not even a martial artist. The instructor reflects on how Su-hong learned the Raging Sea Spear technique to the proficient realm after watching only one demonstration. Considering that even the geniuses in the Magic City or Imperial Capital are not exaggerated to this extent. Since he knows that Li Yan has talent but is far too arrogant, he believes that being struck by this kind of genius is a good thing for the boy. The teacher bows slightly towards Su-hong and asks for forgiveness, blaming his own lack of strict discipline. Su-hong thinks to himself that the man changes his face very quickly. He leaves the dojo shortly after, feeling very exhausted, but he is satisfied with the harvest of martial value and the new skills he learned. He remembers that the school exam is only a few days away, and that wealthy students have already prepared high-end alloy weapons, so he decides he also needs to prepare a weapon for the exam as quickly as possible. Since the long spear felt comfortable during use, he decides he might as well use a spear from now on and looks for an alloy long spear. However, he worries because the little money he has is not even enough to treat his aunt's illness, let alone buy an alloy weapon priced at 69,800 coins. He wonders if there are any other ways to make money, and as he is walking, he sees a news report on a television inside a shop, stating that ferocious beasts are increasing day by day, and the city lord is summoning martial artists to hunt them in exchange for generous rewards. He realizes this is a great opportunity to go out of the city and hunt the monsters. Meanwhile, at his house, the aunt tells her husband there is no logic in him working so desperately since Su-hong gave them a large sum of money. The uncle is aware of this, but does not think it is right to place the entire burden of supporting the family on the boy, so he insists on saving up more family fortune for the children while he can still work. Su-hong arrives at the house and asks his aunt to let him handle the chores. He tells his uncle not to go out to work anymore since he can earn enough money, wanting his uncle to stay home and take care of the ant. The uncle replies that it sounds nice, but he cannot stay idle. The uncle smiles and gives a thumbs up, telling him not to worry because he is only earning a little money for daily expenses and is not pushing himself. The ant adds that Sue will need to spend a lot of money on martial arts practice in the future, so they want to save wherever possible. Su Hong reflects that his uncle and aunt are used to living in poverty and will not feel at ease retiring until he earns enough money to last a lifetime. He decides he absolutely cannot let the opportunity to hunt ferocious beasts slip by. Later that night on the rooftop, since he knows the wilderness is dangerous, he uses the system to add all his gained martial value to his vitality for safety. His vitality reaches 95.2, making him only one step away from becoming a martial artist. 2 days later at the school gym, he is exhausted after pushing himself very hard. He has finally managed to bring all his martial skills, including the Thunder Rush Fist, Raging Sea Spear Technique, Vajra Fist, Floating Light Palm, and Void Step to the perfect realm. He feels ready to leave the city and arrives at the martial artist base in Star City, thinking how far away this place is. While walking, he notes that although he has seen it many times on TV, this is his first time coming to the martial artist base. Martial artists, who are normally rare to see, are actually filling the streets. He reads the reward list, noting that non-ranked beasts give 300 blue star coins, Tier 1 initial stage beasts give 1,000, Tier 1 middle stage beasts give 3,000, while Tier 1 high stage beasts give 5,000 and so on. After that, he learns that he must cut off the left ear of a ferocious beast as proof, otherwise the payment will not be settled, and he thinks that this method is quite primitive. He sees a man at the counter with a bag and assumes it must be full of ears. Suddenly, a group arrives and orders everyone to move, announcing that young Master Yi has arrived. Su Hong becomes intrigued because the man's attire and aura look a bit like White Fox from the underground arena. He overhears people whispering that young Master Yi was beaten up by someone a few days ago and had been hiding ever since. He looks toward the group, and young Master Yi gazes back at him with a smirk. Su Hong realizes that the danger comes not only from ferocious beasts but also from humans, so he must be careful. He reaches the gate and the guard asks if he is really going into the wilderness alone. Su gives a brief affirmation and the guard lets him inside. As he walks in, the guard looks at him and sighs, thinking he is just another ignorant and fearless brat. Su Hong crosses the gate and enters the forest, determined to return fully loaded. 2 hours later, he becomes worried because he has not seen a single beast yet, wondering if they have all been killed off and deciding to look deeper into the forest. As he begins to run, he sees something and stops. A giant wolf appears before him. He recognizes it as a Tier 1 initial stage ferocious beast from his textbooks called a Nether Moon Wolf. The wolf lets out a loud roar and charges toward him. As the wolf is about to attack him, he dodges the attack. He gathers energy in his hand and strikes with the Thunder Rush Fist, which sends the wolf flying violently into a tree and it falls dead on the ground. He comes near it and looks at his hands, which are trembling. He finally feels the sensation of fighting a monster, nodding it is even more exciting than he imagined. He realizes he can now kill a Tier 1 initial stage ferocious beast in a single move, and wonders how he would fare against a Tier 1 middle stage ferocious beast. Just as he considers this, a giant raging black bear appears behind him. He defeats this Tier 1 middle stage ferocious beast with just one punch. He realizes that Tier 1 monsters will no longer be a problem for him, so he simply needs to avoid provoking Tier 2 ferocious beasts to stay out of danger. He cuts the ears of the beast, and notes that he has now secured 3,000 in prize money. At that moment, his system provides a reminder, stating that his accumulated martial value is sufficient to break through to martial artist and urging him to upgrade as soon as possible. He is happy that he can finally advance in level. Suddenly, he feels an absurd pressure. He wonders what kind of ferocious beast possesses such an intense aura, nodding it must be a beast on another level. He runs to investigate the source and reaches the location. He is startled to find a black jade giant python, which is a Tier 1 late-stage ferocious beast that some warriors are currently fighting. The monster strikes the warriors, throwing them against the rocks. Because Su Hong is standing on the same rock, the python sees him and the giant python attacks him as well. He manages to dodge the strike by jumping, but the snake moves too fast and hits him with its tail, throwing him far away. Su Hong coughs up blood and sees a man's body which is cut in half with a spear lying nearby. He wipes his mouth and decides to borrow the spear for a moment. He stands before the serpent. The monster wastes no time and attacks, but Su Hong dodges while reflecting that killing a monster of this level usually requires the cooperation of several martial artists of a similar level. He knows that while his martial skills have all been cultivated to perfect, allowing him to easily kill a raging black bear, this serpent is a different matter. He jumps onto a tree and uses Void Step at the perfect level to gain height. Only then does he use the Raging Sea Spear technique at the perfect level. He throws the spear and it pierces the monster's body. He runs to retrieve the spear. Once he has it, he gathers energy again and throws his spear one more time, and it pierces the monster's body once more. After that, he runs to get the spear one more time while dodging an attack from the monster. He continues this pattern because he is aware that the difference in their body sizes is too great. He notes it is hard to deal a fatal blow in one hit, so he must weaken it as much as possible first. Just as he thinks that, he is almost struck by another attack but counters with the Thunder Rush Fist. He immediately retreats to widen the distance from the giant python. He must find an opening, launch an attack, and then quickly disengage. He admits that fighting like this is a bit tiring, though the advantage is safety. He notes that the snake also seems to be reaching its limit, and decides he just needs to maneuver around it a few more times to take it down. He tells the beast to keep it coming. Suddenly he senses something approaching. He turns around and sees that a warrior is trying to attack him. In surprise, Su-hong blocks the incoming attack but is thrown far away. He gets up while coughing and asks who these people are. It is young Master Yi, who laughs and comments that they meet again. He asks Su how about giving this black jade giant python to him as a gift. As the group comes near Su-hong, young Master Yi comments that when he saw Su leaving the city by himself, he was certain he would perish rapidly. He adds that he did not anticipate such high luck, noting that not only did he survive, but he also discovered the black jade giant python while it was seriously wounded. Su-hong realizes what is occurring since the group seems to have just arrived to make such a statement. He becomes concerned because they possess the advantage of numbers, and he feels he cannot confront them directly. As he considers this, the masked man launches another attack. Su-hong becomes annoyed by this action and asks if they truly think he is unable to beat them simply because he was hit by a sneak attack. He also launches an attack and their fists clash, and the brawler finds the frightening power he is experiencing to be unbelievable. Furthermore, he takes a punch directly to the face, which causes him to drop to the floor in an unconscious state. Yi Feng remembers the Vajra fist and deduces that the boy was the Minotaur. Su-hong also figures out that the man is the white fox he previously battled in the arena. Yi Feng declares that he has never endured such embarrassment before an audience and commands his subordinates to kill him. Su-hong picks up his spear and begins to run, leading the group as they pursue him into the depths of the woods. The swordsman cautions that they have the superior count and should not be afraid of just one person. Suddenly, Su-hong emerges behind him and strikes him with the Thunder Rush Fist, causing the man to pass out from the force of the blow. Yi Feng grows anxious because he does not comprehend how someone can move with such speed. The group goes from chasing mode to defensive mode pretty fast, feeling terrified as they hear the sound of the Nine-Echo Thunder Rush Fist. They note that not even a Tier 3 martial artist could execute it to such a perfect realm. Yi Feng starts to break into a cold sweat since he has no clue how a teenager possesses both the perfect Vajra Fist and the perfect Thunder Rush Fist. Su-hong observes them from a distance, thinking that if he had not just finished battling the giant python, he could have destroyed them all immediately. He hurls his spear since he needs to create a chance to take them out individually. The weapon impales the ground near the group and they all look at it in shock. And using this diversion, he gets close to one of the men and lands a knee strike on the guy's face, and he falls to the ground unconscious. The final remaining lackey suggests to Yi Feng that they should depart because their enemy is too powerful, but Yi Feng declines, stating he cannot do such a thing. Su-hong begins to move fast between the trees, but suddenly he appears between both of them and attacks, knocking out the last lackey and vanishing instantly. Yi Feng simply cannot grasp how a kid grew so strong in only a few days. Su suddenly appears behind him, but as he turns, Su is gone once again. This time Su tries to attack with the spear, but Yi Feng notices him this time and turning around, charges towards Su-hong and uses his void-breaking finger attack. But Su easily dodges that attack and it hits the tree. The blow is so forceful that it shatters a tree, and he continues to fire in every direction, hoping that one of the strikes might land by chance. Su-hong notes this since the power is great and considers that it might be a rank B technique. Yi Feng yells out that he has already memorized the kid's face. He warns that if he is harmed, he will definitely slaughter his entire family once he returns. Su-hong becomes enraged upon hearing these words and increases his speed even further. Yi Feng starts to mention that his uncle is the supervisor of the martial artist base and his father is. But before he can complete the sentence, Su-hong appears and delivers a punch straight onto Yi Feng's face, which sends him through the air like a cannonball. He hits the ground where the snake was previously, and as he tries to get up, Su-hong approaches and says he should not have used his family to threaten him. Yi Feng is severely wounded and wonders how someone can be so strong when he is clearly not a martial artist. He screams, asking, "Who exactly are you?" and while he is speaking, the black jade giant python emerges behind him and finishes him off with its tail. It then hisses loudly, and Su-hong realizes he engaged in combat for too long, allowing the monster to recover its stamina. The group of lackeys finally regains consciousness, realizing that the teen they fought is bizarrely strong. They wonder where their young master has gone and if he managed to finish off the brat. Suddenly, they notice Su-hong running toward them. They prepare for a fight, but he screams at them to move. Behind him, the black jade giant python is charging in their direction. Two warriors fail to move in time, and the serpent devours them instantly. A system notification appears, informing him that because he indirectly killed two martial artists, he has gained 60 martial value points. The same fate befalls the swordsman as the monster kills him, granting Su-hong another 30 points for the indirect death. He is surprised, reflecting that he had no idea it was possible to earn points in such a manner. The snake prepares to strike him next, but he leaps into the air using his void step. He has accumulated enough points to become a martial artist, and knows that if he could find a safe place to break through, it would be perfect. Just then, he spots a cave right ahead. He runs into the entrance, and the monster crashes into the rocks, unable to follow because the opening is far too small. Once inside, he sees that the snake is persistently trying to force its way in. He quickly opens his system and begins spending his martial value points as fast as he can. As his vitality increases, his entire body feels incredibly hot, as if lava is flowing through his veins. His vitality reaches 100, and a notification announces his breakthrough to Tier 1 martial artist. Su-hong feels an intense power overflowing from his body now that he has become a real martial artist. He looks toward the snake, declaring that it is now his turn to attack. He moves to attack and lands a hit on the stuck monster, sending it flying, but he is not done yet. Su-hong jumps and tries to use his Vajra fist, but the monster was smart and used its tail to attack from behind. Su blocks it, but the power of that attack is strong and still manages to injure him a little. Su-hong firmly grips his spear and hurls it against the monster's body. He then prepares his Thunder Rush fist and punches the serpent's head, smashing it violently against the ground. As the dust dissipates, he stands over the corpse, nodding that he gained 92 martial value points for the kill. He reflects that hunting ferocious beasts requires cutting off the left ear for payment, but he wonders what to do since snakes do not have ears. Seeing no better option, he decides to leave. On his way back, he finds the lifeless body of Yifeng. He thinks that the way the young man ended up was actually easy compared to the threat he made against his family. He decides to search the body to see if he can find something useful and discovers a manual for the B-rank martial skill, Void-Breaking Finger. At night, he returns to the cave and blocks the entrance with stones. He concentrates on the manual, having already memorized the entire introductory method. He enters his mental space through the system to master it quickly. A clone emerges and immediately attacks using the technique. Su-hong dodges and begins practicing the ability to improve his progress, which quickly reaches 93%. However, as he practices, the clone's attack goes straight through his head and he leaves the system space. He realizes that even in the basic realm, the technique brings enormous pressure. He decides he needs to find a monster to test its power. 3 days later, while hunting ferocious beasts, he uses the Void-Breaking Finger and kills a beast easily. He finally reaches the perfect realm and thinks that this power is truly worthy of a B-rank martial skill. After that, Su-hong returns to the martial artist base. The people around are in shock, unable to believe the size of his harvest, which totals 406,000 blue star coins. He worries that he may have killed too many beasts and drawn too much conspicuous attention to himself. Suddenly, an explosion rocks the base. Su-hong and the others wonder if the base is under attack, as it seems impossible for such a place to be targeted. The person in charge of the base, Yi-chi, arrives. He is Yifeng's uncle and is radiating an aura. He orders his men to blockade the base and not let a single person escape. The staff asks the supervisor what has happened. Yi-chi shouts that his nephew Yifeng and the 4 martial artists with him are all dead. The crowd is stunned that a group of 5 was wiped out. Some warriors celebrate silently, knowing that Yifeng was a scourge who robbed others because of his family connections. Yi-chi announces that a B-rank martial skill on Yifeng's body is missing, and demands that everyone be body searched to eliminate suspects. Su-hong realizes that the corpses were killed by the giant python, so the deaths should not be traced back to him. However, he notices a woman come near Yi-chi and tell him something, and Yi-chi looks at Su after hearing that. Su-hong thinks that they are targeting him. Yi-chi walks toward him and comments that he heard the little brother killed ferocious beasts worth 400,000 alone, stating that his skills are amazing. The woman from before, standing behind the supervisor, says that she sees Su-hong as at most a Tier 1 initial stage, martial artist, and wonders how he could kill so many monsters. She declares that he must have picked up Yifeng's backpack and orders the guards to search him immediately. The guards walk toward him, telling the kid not to resist or they won't be polite. As they move in, Su points the tip of a spear at their faces. The men are stunned, realizing they could not see the boy's spear speed clearly at all. Su-hong asks what they are doing and announces that he is a student of Star City No. 1 High School, questioning if they are really going to search him. Yi-chi reflects that the principal of No. 1 High has always been protective of his students and is not someone to mess with, but the kid is highly suspicious. He considers that if the boy really could hunt and kill so many ferocious beasts on his own, he is definitely a genius. If they make a mistake and offend him, the loss would outweigh the gain. He tells Su-hong that his nephew was attacked and their family martial arts technique was stolen, stating that he must find the culprit and hopes the boy will cooperate. Su-hong replies that he hopes Yi-chi does not falsely accuse a good person. The supervisor offers 10,000 coins as compensation for the search. Su-hong demands 30,000 instead. He thinks that Yi Feng was killed by the giant python, and as long as they don't find the martial arts technique, they can't trace the death back to him. Yi-chi agrees to the deal. As Yi-chi's people search Su-hong, he tells them to search carefully, wanting to be sure they are not falsely accusing him, but they find nothing. Yi-chi orders his men to give the boy 30,000 and let him go. Su-hong walks away, thinking it is a good thing he cleaned up the void-breaking finger manual, otherwise today would have been trouble. Yi-chi orders his men to continue searching until everyone is cleared, stating no one is allowed to leave. Su decides to first go take a shower and change his clothes before going to the Martial Artist Association for his assessment and registration, as he needs to get the guidance technique as soon as possible. Later, he sits in a hotel room, nodding he has 534 martial value. He reflects that for the past few days he was focused on cultivating the void-breaking finger and hunting ferocious beasts, so he didn't even get around to using the points. His status window shows his vitality at 103, spirit at 23, and physique mortal body at 6%. He notes that a Tier 1 initial stage martial artist requires 100 vitality points, while a Tier 1 middle stage requires 200. He realizes that if he uses all the martial value to increase vitality, he can increase it by 53.4, leaving him only 40 points away from the middle stage. However, he sees that spirit and mortal body have not been upgraded yet and wonders what effects they have. Since he has lots of martial value now, he decides to see the effect of it. He begins by adding points to spirit, but after increasing it, he doesn't seem to feel any change. Next, he adds points to his mortal body and the strength increase is very obvious. He decides to add a bit more. His vitality reaches 123, spirit is at 26.5, and his mortal body is at 36.1%. He decides to stop the mortal body and add 200 martial value points to vitality and the remaining points to spirit. He suddenly feels as if there is endless power within his body, and his muscles grow colossally. He gradually recovers to his normal shape and feels relieved, thinking that if he kept looking like a muscle man, he wouldn't dare imagine how to explain it to people he knows. 1 hour later, he arrives at the Star City Martial Artist Association and tells the receptionist he is there to participate in the martial artist assessment. She tells him a staff member will take him immediately. The lady notes that he is very young and asks if it is his first time coming for an assessment. She explains that for a Tier 1 martial artist, if the vitality value reaches 100 and the combat power score exceeds 1000, it counts as a pass. Other candidates whisper about him, wondering if the kid came alone without a master. They assume that coming to participate at this age means he probably just wants to try it out. Su-hong watches as an assessor announces that Fan Jia has 102 vitality points but a combat power of 992, meaning the assessment failed. Next, Li Ming comes out of the machine showing 105 vitality points and passing the first stage. Li Ming moves to the combat power test where he strikes the machine. His score is 1763 and he passes. People comment that his power is almost catching up to a Tier 1 middle stage martial artist. They note he is a disciple of Jiang Ming from the Raging Thunder Dojo and is even using the Thunder Rush Fist. Su-hong realizes Jiang Ming is the instructor he met previously and wonders how many disciples the man actually has since Li Yan is also his student. Li Ming tells Su-hong it is his turn. As Su enters the machine, Li Ming thinks that he came for the assessment at this age because he is a genius and asks if the boy can compare with him. After some time, people begin to shout, "Wait, is this vitality detector broken? How is his vitality so high?" The assessor announces that Su-hong's vitality is 123 points and he has passed. Li Ming is shocked by this. He tries to tell himself that high vitality is useless and that combat power is everything. Su-hong prepares for his combat power test, thinking that since he advanced to martial artist and upgraded his physique, his strength has increased greatly. He considers that 40% strength should be enough, but worries that if he hits too lightly and the combat power isn't qualified, he will have a problem. He decides to use 50% strength just to be safe. He strikes the machine, sending the detector flying through the air until it crashes and explodes against a wall. Li Ming and the others cannot believe he sent the detector flying with one punch, noting the strength is too terrifying. They realize he didn't even seem to use any martial skills. The score on the broken machine shows 3004. People are dumbfounded, noting that the combat power standard for a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist is only 3,000 points. A staff member watching all this from afar tells his teacher that the kid is back and is simply monstrous. The man, recognizing the boy, says it is no wonder. Meanwhile, in her office, the Star City Martial Dao Association president, Wu Lingxian, is annoyed. She sees on her phone that the neighboring Yang City branch produced another genius who is showing off. She worries that if Star City doesn't produce geniuses, her position is coming to an end. Suddenly, an employee bursts in, shouting that a monster has appeared at the martial artist assessment. He explains that at Tier 1 initial stage, martial artist reached 3,000 points and sent the testing machine flying with one punch, relying solely on physical body strength. Wu Lingxian is startled by the news. Inside the central hall of the Martial Artist Association, an employee tells Su Hong that he will escort him to the second floor. He explains that they need to register his martial artist identity first and then collect his monthly allowance. Su thanks him for the help, but a woman suddenly appears and declares that she will handle the kid personally. The employee is shocked, realizing that the president of the association is stepping in. Wu Lingxian introduces herself to Su Hong and asks him to follow her. He agrees and reflects on her reputation, mentally nodding that she is the president of the Star City Martial Artist Association. Rumor has it she is a Tier 5 martial artist, though she looks different than he imagined. They arrive at the president's office, where she asks if he is a student at Star City No. 1 High School. She mentions that the principal, old boy Li Changshan, was complaining to her recently, lamenting that the school only produced 2 ordinary Tier 1 martial artists this year, yet it turns out they were hiding such a big genius. Su Hong asks why she brought him to her office and states that he only came to register his martial artist ID and collect the monthly allowance and guidance technique. Wu Lingxian tells him not to worry, explaining that she already had people handle his registration and allowance. As for the guidance technique, she will teach him personally, asking how much he currently understands about guidance techniques. Su Hong reflects on his studies, nodding that the textbook says heaven and earth spiritual qi has attributes. He explains that the guidance technique is a method to absorb this qi to strengthen one's body, and absorbing different attributes requires a corresponding guidance technique. She tells him the textbook is not wrong, but clarifies that guidance techniques are not just cultivation methods. She uses her own heavenly flame guidance technique as an example, explaining that she mainly absorbs fire attribute spiritual qi. She demonstrates by igniting her hand, explaining that while it strengthens the body, it also gives her attacks fire attribute lethality. Achieving external release of attribute attacks can increase attack distance, and she notes that for a Tier 1 martial artist, even wrapping a fraction of the attribute around a fist is considered very good. Su Hong is surprised, as he thought guidance techniques were only for cultivation. The textbooks never taught that these techniques could be used for attacks. Wu Lingxian explains that heaven and earth spiritual qi has 7 attributes: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, thunder, and wind. She states that while every attribute has strengths and weaknesses, thunder is first in terms of pure attack power, metal is second, and fire is third. However, she clarifies that the specific technique he can cultivate depends on his compatibility. Su Hong realizes that he cannot simply cultivate whatever guidance technique he wants. She lifts a crystal ball, explaining it is for testing compatibility. The larger the glowing area, the higher the compatibility. Ordinary martial artists usually have 20 to 30% compatibility, while she is around 80%, which is considered very high. She believes a genius like him will definitely exceed 90%. He takes the ball, thinking that since she is a Tier 5 martial artist at such a young age, she is an absolute genius even at 80%. He considers that reaching 90% would be too exaggerated. Suddenly, the crystal ball emits an intense light that fills the room. Wu Lingxian is stunned and shouts that he has 100% fire attribute compatibility. She asks if he knows what this means, and Su Hong admits that he does not. She explains that he can absorb 100% of fire attribute spiritual qi without leaking a trace. She compares this to her own 80% compatibility, where she loses 20% during absorption. Despite that loss, she still became a Tier 5 martial artist and the association president. She says that the boy's future achievements will be higher than hers, as she did not expect Star City to produce a monster no weaker than those in the Imperial Capital region. Su Hong thinks that fire attribute is nice, but he would prefer thunder. As he wishes for it, the ball begins to crackle with electricity. He notes that his thunder attribute compatibility seems to be 100% as well. Wu Lingxian is speechless, wondering if this is real or fake. She thinks that he is a monster for having 100% compatibility in both fire and thunder. But Su Hong interrupts her thoughts, saying his wind attribute also seems to be 100% too. Lingxian is outraged by how ridiculous this is. A few minutes later, she sits quietly on her sofa trying to process the situation. She thinks she must be dreaming because he had 100% in all attributes. She reflects on how she used to consider herself a top-tier genius, as a 30-year-old Tier 5 martial artist is as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. However, facing an opponent beyond common sense makes her feel like an ordinary person. She realizes that to defeat an existence beyond common sense, only those equally beyond common sense are necessary. She looks at Su Hong and considers that ordinary people cannot understand such existences. He thinks about how cultivating only thunder would be a waste if all 7 attributes are at 100%. He asks Wu Lingxian if she can give him a copy of the guidance techniques for all 7 attributes. She remains silent for a moment before explaining that human energy is limited. She advises that no matter how high his talent is, it is best to cultivate only 1 or 2. She mentions that in the past, someone tried to cultivate 7 techniques at once and was still only a Tier 1 martial artist after decades. Su Hong tells her he cannot make a decision right now and wants to try cultivating them all first to decide which specific one to follow later. She agrees, but warns him not to mess around and waste his talent in vain. Wu Lingxian then mentions that the school's monthly exam is coming soon. Su Hong asks why she is concerned about that. She explains that friction in the all-heavens battlefield is intensifying, and a war of 10,000 races could erupt at any moment. She tells him nations are investing resources into a genius training camp, and she wants to recommend him for it. She promises that if he takes first place in the school monthly exam, she can give him a recommendation spot. Su reflects on the War of 10,000 Races, recalling that he lost all his relatives except his uncle and aunt during that war over a decade ago. He promises to work hard. He will never let that tragedy happen again and vows to become strong to protect everyone around him. Later, Su Hong returns home and announces to his uncle and aunt that he has officially become a martial artist. They see his card and are emotional and proud of his success. He explains that a Tier 1 martial artist gets a 10,000 allowance per month, so his uncle does not have to work so desperately anymore. His uncle is overjoyed and declares that little Hong is now the pillar of the family, promising to listen to whatever he says. Su looks at them and thinks that they do not have to worry, as he will hold up the family from now on. Late that night, he cultivates as aura swirls around him. After some time, he opens his eyes and tests a punch that crackles with fire, but the flame quickly smokes out. He wonders if this is only the basic level since it seems to have no power at all. He checks his system and sees a new guidance technique column. It shows Heavenly Flame Guidance Technique at LV1 with 5% progress. He notes that Wu Lingxian did not mention that guidance techniques had levels, thinking she definitely would have told him if they did. Could it be that only he can level up this guidance technique? Su Hong attempts to figure out how to increase the level of his guidance techniques and wonders if he can use his martial value for this purpose. However, the system issues a warning about having insufficient martial value, leading him to realize he must find another way to earn points later. He decides it is better to prioritize cultivating the rest of the guidance techniques first. Several hours later, he has successfully unlocked the first level of the Thunder Guidance Technique, Water Marsh Guidance Technique, Thick Earth Guidance Technique, and Spirit Wind Guidance Technique. He notices that all 7 different attributes of spiritual qi are repelling each other within his body. He reflects on President Wu's words about the genius who tried this before and remained a Tier 1 martial artist for decades. Su Hong understands that although all 7 types of spiritual qi exist in his body, he can only use one attribute at a time. If he forcibly uses a second attribute, the two will clash violently and eventually dissipate. However, he considers that since the natures of thunder and fire are relatively close, they might be able to fuse together. Despite the power becoming unstable, he continues his attempts throughout the night. By dawn the next day, he pushes himself just a little bit more and finally succeeds in achieving a fusion. He feels relieved as it took the entire night to accomplish this, and he decides his next step is to go out and test this power. He heads to the Star City Citizen Martial Arts Square to test his new ability. He specifically chooses a Tier 3 combat power tester to ensure he does not break it this time. He decides to use only 30% of his strength, recalling that 50% strength previously produced a score of 3,000. He is surprised to see the meter exceed 2,300, noting that it should have been around 1,800, meaning his single power of thunder has increased his output by 500 points. He wonders what the fused power of thunder and fire will look like and delivers another blow to the machine. The score reaches 3041, which leaves him stunned. He is very happy that by relying purely on his physical body and the fused Thunderfire energy, 30% of his strength already surpasses a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist. Considering his vitality is only 123 points, he finds this power to be terrifying. He begins to imagine what the power would look like if he could fuse all 7 attributes. Driven by this thought, he decides to return home to attempt a 3-attribute fusion. After several attempts, Su-hong falls to the floor in exhaustion. He notes that the difficulty of fusing 3 attributes is significantly higher, as he arranged and combined the 7 attributes many times without making any progress. He wonders if raising the level of the guidance techniques themselves can help him fuse them successfully. Since the monthly exam is tomorrow, he should focus on earning as much martial value as possible. The next day at Star City No. 1 High School, the students gather as the principal announces that this monthly exam is different from before. He explains that because the situation at the front lines is tense, a training camp will be held every year to select geniuses for concentrated training. He tells them that the camp has abundant resources, including Tier 7 Grandmaster instructors and plenty of martial arts and pills. He declares that the top 3 students in this monthly exam will be able to participate in the training camp organized by Star City. The students are thrilled at the mention of the Genius Training Camp, especially since a Grandmaster instructor is at Tier 7, while their own principal is only at Tier 3. Su-hong finds it amusing because Wu Lingxian promised him a spot for finishing first, yet it seems the top 3 will receive spots regardless. His friend approaches him and worries that they have no chance because Chen Shan and Li Tu have both become Tier 1 martial artists, and many others have reached the basic level in the Thunder Rush Fist. Su-hong mentions that he hasn't been to school for just 10 days and is surprised these students broke through so quickly. The boy explains that the principal brought in Chen Tian to give private lessons to talented students, helping their vitality break 100 a few days ago. He adds that Chen Shan and Li Tu can already produce 3 echoes with their Thunder Rush Fist. The 2 rival geniuses joke together about showing everyone who the true No. 1 genius is. Chen Tian asks the principal if he has found the genius with the 9-echo Thunder Rush Fist yet. The principal replies that he has searched everywhere and doubts the person is a student of their school. Suddenly, Jiang Ming arrives with 2 disciples and asks old Li why he looks so troubled. He comments that the quality of students this year is not great and suggests that after the exam ends, the first-place student should come over for a spar with his disciples. The principal is irritated, realizing Jiang Ming is here to embarrass him, but he knows that refusing would be admitting there isn't a single presentable talent in the school. Jiang Ming mockingly says he can understand if the principal wants to refuse due to the poor quality of his students. Chen Tian interrupts and asks if the man is looking for trouble on purpose. At that moment, Li Yan points toward the crowd and alerts his teacher to the presence of Su-hong. Jiang Ming is shocked to see the little monster is actually from No. 1 High School. He breaks into a sweat, realizing that if Li Yan and Li Ming meet Su-hong, they definitely cannot win. Fearing he will be the one losing face, Jiang Ming suddenly claims he was joking and says his 2 trash disciples could never compare to the principal's students. The 2 disciples quickly agree and announce their concession. But the principal and Chen Tian are left furious, feeling they are being mocked with sarcasm. Later in the arena, the match between No. 665 Chen Peng and No. 666 Su-hong is announced. Teacher Li advises him not to force it since getting injured isn't worth it. Chen Peng tells Su-hong to go down himself or prepare to be beaten down. However, Su-hong moves with incredible speed and slams Chen Peng's head into the ground, instantly winning the match. Teacher Li and his friend are completely dumbfounded, unable to believe he has become fierce enough to insta-defeat a quasi-martial artist in one move. Su continues winning his matches one after another, and his classmate wonders how he is so strong, asking if he could already be a Tier 1 martial artist. The instructor Chen Tian asks where Su-hong popped out from and wonders why the boy was not there when he was giving private tutoring, while the principal Li Changshan reflects that this is all a total dereliction of his duty. He wonders how he did not discover this good seedling before and realizes that by not prioritizing Su-hong's nurturing earlier, he has buried a talent. Meanwhile, Chen Tian feels as if he has seen the kid somewhere before, but he realizes he cannot recall where. The principal notes that the semifinal between Chen Shan and Li Tu should be deciding a winner soon. Their strength is similar, so it is hard to say who will win or lose, as Chen Shan and Li Tu exchange frantic blows. Li Tu notes that they both have the 3 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, and tells Chen Shan that if he does not use his ultimate move, he should not dream of beating him. Chen blocks the attack and tells Li Tu to watch closely, declaring that he is the true No. 1 of the school. The crowd is surprised to see Chen Shan performing attribute externalization, noting that he has the fire attribute, which possesses immense power inferior only to thunder. Li Tu is not intimidated and asks who cannot perform attribute externalization. The crowd is shocked again as Li Tu reveals he can also perform externalization, manifesting the metal attribute, which has stronger combat power than the fire attribute. Li Tu announces that he also knows a further secret and unleashes the 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist. Chen is shocked and finds himself unable to do anything but receive the blow head-on. The principal is astonished that Li Tu hid his strength so deeply, and Tian agrees, nodding that in just 10 days, Li Tu mastered attribute externalization and reached the micro-level with the Thunder Rush Fist, thinking Li Tu's talent is quite good. The principal thinks there is no need to watch the final, believing it is impossible for Su Hong to beat Li Tu's micro-level Thunder Rush Fist in metal attribute. Chen Tian thinks it is a pity, reflecting that if Su also knew a guidance technique, he might have had a fighting chance. Jiang Ming hears this and addresses the principal and Tian, proposing a bet of 50,000 on Su Hong's victory. The principal asks if Jiang Ming is crazy since Su does not know a guidance technique and has nothing to win with, but he accepts the bet thinking Jiang Ming is delivering money to his door. The final match between number 1 Li Tu and number 666 Su Hong finally begins. Li Tu tells Su that he is very lucky for not meeting him or Chen earlier and suggests the boy sneaked into the finals. Su Hong thinks that after hunting so many ferocious beasts, these students feel too weak, nodding that finally someone worth looking at has arrived. Li Tu tells Su that since he made it to the finals, he can claim to be number 2 in the whole school. Su asks who the number 1 is, and Li Tu declares that it is naturally him. He charges forward, intending to use only one move to make Su Hong understand how big the gap between them is. He uses his 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist right from the start, causing the students to wonder if he is being serious and believe the fight is over since Su is bound to lose. Our boy prepares himself and charges forward, thinking he just wanted to see where the limits of his physical body lie. The audience wonders if Su is crazy for not dodging and raising his fists to meet the attack head-on, even calling for the referee to save him. However, Su Hong neutralizes the 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist instantly with 5 punches, and he only uses his physical strength. Li Tu is stunned, unable to believe what just happened. They continue exchanging blows. Li Tu wonders if Su Hong is a monster because every punch he receives is so heavy. The crowd is surprised that Su is evenly matched with Li Tu's 5 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, without even employing any martial skills, thinking Su's strength is too terrifying. Chen Tian suggests that the Su boy must possess some kind of special physique, otherwise his strength wouldn't be this exaggerated, while the principal celebrates that his school finally produced a genius with a special physique. Chen Tian notes that although Su's strength is astonishing, Li Tu has already condensed an attribute, meaning Su still has no advantage to speak of. Li Tu was sent back after their clash. He gathers his power and tells Su not to be arrogant, declaring that the winner can only be him. He demands that Su accept defeat and charges at him once more. Su Hong reflects that he originally wanted to see to what extent he could fight Li Tu using only his physical body, but realizes the boy could not hold back so quickly and has completely erupted. He decides he must also show some respect, and advances while manifesting his thunder attribute. Li Tu is shocked to see that Su Hong can also use attribute externalization. The principal and Chen Tian are left speechless, realizing that he has also mastered the thunder guidance technique. Tian thinks a special physique plus the thunder attribute makes Su Hong's talent truly terrifying. As both of their attacks collide, Li Tu realizes that Su Hong's thunder attribute is even stronger than his own metal attribute. Su tells him that since the boy showed his ultimate move, he will show his ultimate move as well. He attacks with the 9 Echoes Thunder Rush Fist, sending his opponent Li flying. Li Tu is left unable to believe how this is possible and he falls to the ground defeated. The crowd is in shock for a moment before they begin to celebrate, realizing Su Hong's Thunder Rush Fist reached the perfect realm for real. Chen Tian wonders if Su is the genius that disappeared from the school that day, nodding his Thunder Rush Fist, while the principal says the boy is not just a genius, but the dragon of Star City number 1 high school. Tian wonders about how much of a blow the geniuses from prominent backgrounds will suffer when this monster arrives at the training camp. He reflects that once a golden carp meets the wind and cloud, it transforms into a dragon, believing that to Su Hong, Star City is nothing more than a small puddle. The principal agrees, nodding that the boy is inevitably a dragon rising from the abyss, destined to soar into the sky. He believes this monster will bloom his radiance in the imperial capital and even on the battlefield of 10,000 races. Late in the afternoon, Su Hong returns to his house and announces to his family that he is back. His uncle asks how the monthly exam went today. Su Hong chuckles and declares that he secured first place. His uncle is happy to hear this, nodding that now Su can go to the genius training camp he mentioned before. Suddenly, there is a loud knocking at the door. A woman outside shouts, demanding to know if this is Su Hong's house. He opens the door and asks who she is. The woman identifies herself as Lin Nyan's parent from his school, and explains that while the top 3 in the monthly exam can go to the training camp, since her son ranked 4th, she wants to discuss Su Hong giving up his spot, offering him 30,000 blue star coins to let Lin Nyan go instead. Su and his family look on in disbelief at her absurd request. The woman becomes furious at their reaction, shouting that this training camp was established to nurture geniuses who can enter the All Heavens battlefield in the future, warning that the competition is extremely cruel and people could actually die. She claims that those inside eat high-grade pills until they are sick and practice high-tier martial skills as they please, telling him that with his family conditions, giving up early is for his own good. His aunt becomes worried and asks Su if it is really as dangerous as she says. But his uncle tells his wife to calm down and asks Su if he can guarantee his own safety. Su Hong looks at him without hesitation and declares that he can. The woman scoffs, asking if they actually believe a child's guarantee. However, his uncle tells her that he obviously believes it, nodding Su has grown up and this is his own decision, so he asks the woman to leave. After he closes the door in her face, she yells that they should just wait to be eliminated from the training camp. Su Hong asks his uncle if he intentionally kept the danger a secret, but his uncle replies that it is fine. He notes that he is a rough man and Su is more educated and understands the training better than he does, so he promises to support him since Su has the resolve to face the difficulties. His aunt finds their talk funny and tells them not to get too excited, as she only wants Su to guarantee his safety. Su Hong smiles and promises her that he will. Later that night, he stands on the rooftop and reflects that his uncle and aunt must still be worrying about him secretly. He vows to never let down their expectations and decides he must become stronger to protect his hard-earned life. He opens his system and notes that he fought over a dozen matches in the monthly exam, gaining a total of 285 martial value points, but he realizes this is not enough, as he does not know what high-level martial skills or trump cards the geniuses in the training camp possess. To fight against them, he decides to prioritize improving his physical combat power. He begins adding points to his mortal body attribute until it reaches 64.6%, wondering what special physique will come after it reaches 100%. He then notices that his Thunder Guidance Technique and Heavenly Flame Guidance Technique have both reached LV2. He finds this strange since he only cultivated them for a few days and wonders if normal cultivation allows them to level up without extra conditions. He decides to strive to level them up once more. The next day at dawn, Su Hong opens his eyes and sees that both techniques have reached LV3. He notes that his vitality also grew by 3 points, reaching 126. As he prepares to leave, his aunt tells him to pay attention to safety and to just come home if things don't work out. His uncle tells him to ignore such depressing words and encourages Su to bring back another first place. Su Hong says goodbye and walks away. As Su leaves, his aunt looks at her husband, nodding that he is just as worried as she is despite acting tough. He admits he is only acting this way because he is afraid Su will worry. Su Hong walks down the street until a red car drifts on the road and stops before him. President Wu is behind the wheel and tells him to get in. As they drive on the highway, he asks what she needs from him. Wu explains that she wants to remind him of a few things regarding the training camp, stating that as the president of the Martial Dao Association, she knows the profiles of some participants. She warns that among the martial artists, there are a few monsters who are already Tier 1 high stage and aren't far from becoming Tier 2 martial artists, and a few of them even possess martial skills that are at least B rank at the lowest. Su Hong reflects that a Tier 2 martial artist requires 200 points of vitality. In this batch, there are actually people not far from being Tier 2 martial artists. However, he thinks that he is not afraid of B rank skills since he can quickly learn them with his system space. Wu tells him that bar none, his talent is the strongest she has ever seen, but acknowledges he lacks the same resources as the others. She encourages him, stating that even if he faces setbacks, surpassing them is inevitable. He thanks her, addressing her as Sister Wu. She looks at him and notes that despite knowing his vitality and skills are inferior to the others, Su Hong remains very calm. She realizes she does not need to worry about his mental state causing problems. The scene shifts to the Tianlin mountain range. Inside the car, Su and others are sitting together. Two boys are startled to learn their destination, as it is a place where many ferocious beasts gather. The principal tells them not to worry, explaining that the training camp is overseen by a grandmaster, meaning there is usually no life-threatening danger. Su Hong reflects on the Tianlin mountain range, nodding it is a massive area spanning multiple cities, including Star City and Yang City. He thinks about how the spiritual energy there is dense and ferocious beasts are numerous, with beast kings present that are comparable to Tier 7 grandmasters. The competition among the ferocious beasts in this range is extremely cruel. He considers that even a Tier 1 ferocious beast from the outer periphery is far more ferocious than those found elsewhere, to the point that normal Tier 2 martial artists would not dare to tread there easily. As the car continues into the forest, monsters watch them from the woods. The students feel as if something is staring at them, and they wonder if a ferocious beast might suddenly attack. Su-hong thinks that the training camp competition will probably be just as cruel as the slaughter among the ferocious beasts, and for some reason he is starting to like that feeling. After some time, they arrive at the camp. Li Tu wonders how strong the people present are. The warriors at the site stare at them, leaving Li Tu and Chen Shan completely silent, but Su remains confident and tells them, "Let's go." As they walk, a staff member stops them and tells them to wait for everyone to arrive before the camp entrance assessment begins. Su is confused that there is even an entrance assessment. Suddenly, someone announces that the big families have arrived, and they all look back as several cars pull up to the site. The young masters of big families start coming out of them. The crowd comments on how cool and beautiful goddess Xiao Nan is, expressing envy toward her status as a spirit master. They notice Lin Ying from the Lin family, who is rumored to be nearly a Tier 2 martial artist. Finally, they see the city lord's son, Wang Tianchuo, who is known as a barbarian god with 95% fire attribute compatibility and a special physique. As they pass through the crowd, Su Hong watches them, finding it interesting to see the three top geniuses the president mentioned, and thinks he would like to see just how much of a genius they really are. The instructor announces that everyone has arrived and begins explaining the assessment rules. He explains the training camp is located 30 kilometers away within the Tianlin mountain range. He reveals that tokens have been buried inside the bodies of some ferocious beasts, and students can only enter the camp if they hold a token. They are given 8 hours to arrive. He warns that once they go deep into the mountains, they might encounter high-level beasts, and if things go wrong, people will die. Su Hong thinks the 8-hour time limit is simple and realizes he has plenty of time to kill ferocious beasts to earn martial value. A student asks what happens if they run into beasts with levels far exceeding their own. The instructor tells them to consider themselves unlucky and eliminated, though someone will come to save their lives. The students protest that it is not fair and relies too much on luck, as the strong might be eliminated while the weak pass by sheer luck. The instructor yells that this world is not playing house. He asks if they will protest it being unfair when they reach the All-Heavens battlefield after 10 years of cultivation, only to be slapped to death by a passing expert. He tells them that if they do not want to encounter high-tier beasts, they must act with caution, explaining that the rules of the battlefield involve avoiding risk, bullying the weak with strength, and fighting many against few. Another agrees, saying those afraid of death should quit early to save them from wasting time, calling them a bunch of trash. The first student tells him to say that again, and the second student calls him a coward to his face, telling him to make a move and watch as he cripples him. The instructor declares that while violence is prohibited in the camp, they will not interfere once the students enter the mountains. They can snatch tokens or beat someone up as they please. They glare at each other with hostility. Su Hong observes that the training camp is cruel for encouraging them to fight one another, thinking that under these rules, over half of the people will probably be eliminated. He considers the idea that if he fights these people, he will be able to obtain heaps of martial value. The instructor tells them to cut the crap and announces the assessment begins, ordering everyone to get out. The students immediately charge toward the forest. The two students who were arguing continue their fight in the woods, exchanging frantic blows. Su Hong watches from a tree branch, having wanted to see the combat power of these geniuses. He thinks it is far less impressive than the rumors and notes that even if he defeats them, he will not gain much martial value. He decides he should hurry up and hunt a few more high-level ferocious beasts instead. The two fighters continue to insult each other, calling one another paupers and mocking their hard cultivation, with one telling the other not to compare him to those working-class paupers. Su hears this and becomes angry, thinking he cannot let this delivered martial value slip away. He approaches them and tells them to stop fighting and play with him instead. The students ask if another pauper has arrived and threaten to beat him up too, asking what level he is to dare to break up their fight. Su Hong tells them they misunderstood and suggests they stop fighting each other to join hands and fight him together. Immediately, one of the students charges at him, but Su just kicks him, sending him flying across the area. The second student cannot believe the other lost in a single move and notes how fast Su Hong's footwork is. As he looks back, Su Hong tells the second student it is his turn and delivers a heavy blow to his head. After defeating the guy, Su Hong stands over the fallen warriors and declares that this is the consequence of looking down on ordinary cultivators. At the same time, in the central hall, a man monitoring the second row of screens questions where Su Hong came from. They note he appeared in the middle of a hot-blooded duel and finished both warriors with one-shot attacks. They wonder if the two who got knocked down should count as eliminated. An instructor explains that since neither of them actively requested rescue, the assessment continues. After some time, the second guy groans as he regains consciousness, nodding that it hurts so much. He feels humiliated and reflects that he has never suffered such a great embarrassment in his life. The first guy also sits up, realizing that if he had not underestimated the enemy, he never would have lost to that kid. The two of them stare at each other and one apologizes for his previous words, admitting that he should not have mocked him. The second tells him that the guy is actually very strong and not to take those words to heart. They help each other stand up and decide to go get their revenge, planning to use a wooden club to give Su-hong a few good whacks to vent their anger. Meanwhile, Su-hong moves through the forest until he notices another horde of Tier 1 initial stage giant-toothed wild boars. The boars immediately sense his presence and charge at him. He looks at them and unleashes the Thunder Rush Fist, 9 echoes, killing the monsters one by one until the entire pack is finished. The boy has a spear but still uses his fists, as he is trying to farm some aura points as well. He looks at the system and becomes annoyed, reflecting that in the past, defeating a martial artist would give dozens of martial value points. He realizes that as he levels up and grows stronger, the martial value rewards from these ferocious beasts are getting smaller and smaller. Su-hong starts cutting and searching through the monster bodies, fumbling through the dozens of Tier 1 initial stage ferocious beasts he just killed. He notes that the previous 10 beasts had no tokens and wonders if this group has any. He wipes his hands and realizes there still is not even a single token. He concludes that it seems only slightly higher level ferocious beasts will have tokens inside their bodies. Half an hour later, Su-hong continues his journey deep into the mountain. When he first entered 3 to 5 kilometers into the forest, he could encounter over a dozen low-level ferocious beasts in an hour. He wonders why he cannot find even a single one now. A monster suddenly appears. Su quickly identifies it as a Tier 1 high-stage Nether Knight Black Tiger. Without wasting time, he activates the Void-Breaking Finger, severely injuring the beast and causing it to fall to the ground. He runs toward it with his spear and thrusts it into the tiger's head, obtaining 35 martial value points. He realizes that with his current strength, killing a Tier 1 high-stage ferocious beast is as easy as flipping his hand. He fumbles through the black tiger's stomach, hoping it has a token. He awkwardly smiles as he pulls out a token which was covered in blood, reflecting that it took him nearly 3 hours just to find this one. This makes him realize that while Tier 1 initial stage wild boars were everywhere, finding this high-stage tiger took half an hour. It seems that the deeper he goes into the mountain range, the higher the tiers of the ferocious beasts become, but the fewer their numbers are. Even though the Tier 1 high-stage beast yields more martial value, he only found one in half an hour. He concludes that if he hunts low-level ferocious beasts on the outskirts of the mountain range, he could actually earn more martial value by piling up the quantity rather than pursuing quality. There are still 5 hours left in the assessment, so he decides he must accumulate enough martial value to max out his mortal body progress. After some time, at a place where there was so much blood on the ground that it created a large puddle, and monster bodies are everywhere. This was done by Su-hong and he is still killing more beasts, when suddenly a giant beast appears and attacks him from behind. However, he manages to dodge that attack. He notes that after fighting dozens of Tier 1 beasts, he has finally encountered another Tier 1 middle stage ferocious beast. With just a single punch, he launches the bear like a cannonball against a tree. The bear screams in pain as Su-hong finishes it with another precise blow. The attack was so powerful that it even destroys the tree. Su-hong reflects that after his mortal body was upgraded to 60%, he could kill a Tier 1 middle stage beast relying purely on physical strength. He has already earned 254 martial value points and is only short over 100 points to max out his mortal body progress. With over 3 hours left, he decides to gather enough martial value. Suddenly, a loud screech echoes through the forest, and he is startled, wondering what that noise was. A giant bird appears flying above the trees, and Su-hong wonders if it could be the legendary Golden Rock Beast King. The Beast King screeches again, and Su-hong feels a terrifying shockwave created by just a flap of its wings. He grips his spear and reflects that the strength of a Beast King is truly formidable and overwhelming. Some trees are destroyed as Su-hong tries to protect himself, wondering what kind of ferocious beast he is encountering. He admits that recently he has become somewhat complacent about his own strength. However, in front of these top-tier experts, he is simply an ant. Suddenly, something catches his attention as he wonders what a certain ball of light is. Qin Tianli, a Tier 7 Grandmaster, appears flying through the air. He addresses the Beast King, stating that he has borrowed this territory, and asks the monster what it is doing here again. The Golden Rock Beast King screams in response that he never said he would lend the territory to the man and tries to attack. Tianli declares that he will beat the monster until he agrees. He delivers a punch that makes the Golden Rock Beast King screech in pain. Tianli shouts that the bird is so noisy and unleashes a combo of attacks and delivers a final punch to the Beast King's face. He then tells the Golden Rock Beast King not to make him repeat himself and demands that it get out of there right now, since he is borrowing this land. The monster flies away, telling Qin Tianli to just wait. Tianli tells the crowd to have had enough with the nonsense and get lost. He then looks down and announces to everyone that he is the Tier 7 Grandmaster Qin Tianli. He tells all the students not to panic because the assessment will continue. Su Hong considers if this is the strength of a human race Tier 7 martial artist. He thinks that sooner or later he will also reach this realm. Tianli returns to the camp flying, and as he is landing, he comments that the golden-winged great rock should have just agreed readily, but instead it made him thrash the creature. Beimu, another Tier 5 martial artist, notes that, as expected of Grandmaster Qin, he is even more formidable than the rumors. Linzi, a Tier 5 martial artist, agrees, stating that the golden-winged great rock, renowned for his tyrannical physical body, was beaten until he lost his temper. Tianli tells them to stop flattering him and orders them to come to the monitoring room to see who withstood the pressure of the golden-winged great rock just now. After arriving in the monitoring room, the assistants explain that they are looking at surveillance replays from just now. They note that most of the students were unable to move under the golden-winged rock's pressure. Tianli notices a student who easily withstood the pressure after killing a pack of Tier 1 late-stage black tigers and asks for his name. Beimu explains that his name is Wang Tianchuo, a Tier 1 high stage with a vitality of 340 and 95% fire attribute compatibility. She adds that the boy possesses the special physique barbarian god body and has boundless strength as the son of the Star City Lord. Tianli recalls that the City Lord said having kids is like a lottery, and he had no less than 100 children before finally producing a decent one this time. He then points out a boy who managed to escape the coverage of the pressure with brilliant movement techniques. Beimu identifies him as Lin Xing, a Tier 1 high stage with 325 vitality and 96% wind attribute compatibility from the Star City Lin family. Lastly, Qin Tianli notices a girl with enough mental power to cancel out the golden-winged rock's pressure. Beimu explains she is a spirit master named Xiao Yan, a Tier 1 middle stage with 290 vitality and 95% wood attribute compatibility, who is a scion of the Star City Xiao family. The Grandmaster notes these three face the pressure with ease, showing their strength far exceeds their peers. He asks if there are any other talents. Beimu mentions Lin Po and Wang, both Tier 1 middle stage martial artists. She explains that the dozen or so individuals she mentioned all possess Tier 1 middle stage strength and did not lose consciousness when facing the Golden Rock's pressure. Tianli asks why they are all scions of major families and asks about the students from the schools, especially Star City No. 1 High School. Beimu reports that those students are at the Tier 1 initial stage, and only 3 students from No. 1 High School have recently broken through. Tianli tells her to forget it, thinking that Star City is somewhat unworthy of its reputation. Suddenly, Lin Zi shouts to wait and asks what is going on with a certain person. He points to a monitor and notes that, right after experiencing the Golden Rock's pressure, the student actually still has the strength to hunt ferocious beasts. Beimu checks the list and trembles, saying that he is a monster from Star City No. 1 High School. Lin Zi tells her not to be so jumpy in front of the Grandmaster and takes the report from her, but he also begins to shake as he reads the report. He stutters as he also calls the student a monster. Tianli notes that they are young and their temperament isn't very steady. He rips off the paper from the report and looks at it. As he does, his eyes go wide and he asks if the kid is human. The Grandmaster looks at Su Hong's file and sees 100% compatibility for all attributes and a special physique. He wonders if there is really such a monster in this world. Tianli becomes extremely excited, thinking this is a rare encounter in a millennium and that he has struck gold. He then stops and asks why Su Hong is only at the Tier 1 initial stage with 123 vitality points. Beimu explains that Su is simultaneously cultivating 7 guidance techniques. Tianli becomes angry, realizing that is why his vitality is so low, thinking that cultivating 7 types simultaneously would be too much even for a deity. He wonders how his cultivation could possibly increase and asks how Wu Lingxian didn't explain this small matter clearly to the kid. One examiner arrives and tells them that students are arriving at the training camp one after another. Tianli decides to go take a look. Wang Tianchuo, Xiao Yan, and Lin Xing pay their respects to Grandmaster Qin. He tells the 3 little ones they are very good. 6 hours after the start of the assessment, more students finally arrive. They think they were going to die and mention it was the Golden Rock Beast King after all. 7.5 hours after the start, people think they might as well end it early, as nobody should be left behind. Grandmaster Chin wonders where the monster named Su Hong is and hopes he hasn't lost his precious treasure. He then spots Su Hong and thinks the brat is finally here. Su is exhausted and reflects that he was so focused on earning martial value that he almost forgot the time. He enters the camp, and the other students cannot believe how dirty he is. They wonder exactly how many ferocious beasts he had to kill to get so dirty. Two guys from before also see him. One tells the other he waited until the brat showed up, and the other tells him not to be in a rush because once they are in the training camp, there will be plenty of ways to deal with him. Wang Tianchuo, Xiao Yan, and Lin Xing watch him, and Xing thinks it is interesting that an expert is passing right at the deadline. An instructor announces that the 8 hours are up and anyone who hasn't arrived is completely eliminated. He says he will introduce the facilities and rules, listing the gravity training room, movement technique training room, and the ferocious beast combat room, and the martial art pavilion. He explains that in the martial art pavilion they can exchange for martial skills, movement techniques, pills, and weapons, with the highest grade reaching a rank. Su Hong thinks he definitely came to the right place by joining this training camp. The instructor warns that to use these facilities, they need to provide enough contribution points. He says the only way to obtain them is by passing various training subjects, and outstanding performance yields extra rewards. He tells those who can still train to go and train, and injured students to follow him to the dormitories so they don't die in his hands. Su Hong enters his room and feels relieved it is a single room. In the future, when he cultivates and upgrades, he won't have to worry about being seen. He sits on his bed and sees he has 354 martial value points. He decides to max out the mortal body and begins the distribution of points. The system shows the mortal body at 70%, 80%, and 90%. Su Hong reaches 100% mortal body evolution. He gasps as his eyes glow with a red light. The power begins to spread throughout his entire body until the enormous pressure gradually dissipates and completely calms down. He finds the sensation incredible, reflecting that just the eruption of the physical body alone possesses such power. He checks the system and sees he has obtained the Overlord Body Talent, which is described as the existence with the strongest strength among all physiques in the world. Su Hong admits that he has never heard of an Overlord body before and notices that the spirit rank is at 0%, which means the Overlord body can still be upgraded, and he wonders what kind of heaven-defying physique it will evolve into next. He is filled with excitement as he decides to test exactly how much strength this Overlord body possesses. He tries to pick up his spear, but as he does, he realizes the weapon is about to snap just from him casually squeezing it. He notes that the spear is made of a C-rank alloy and is very expensive, having cost him a fortune. But then he remembers that he actually picked this spear up in the Star City wilderness, so it did not cost him any money. He resolves to gather enough contribution points as soon as possible to exchange it for an A-rank alloy spear. Su Hong puts on his jacket and considers that he can earn contribution points just by wearing a weight vest, wondering if he can carry a few hundred kilograms. He heads to the warehouse where people are simply impressed by Wang Tianchuo. The boy is carrying a 3,000-kilogram load and even says it is a bit light while managing to jump with ease. Xiao Yan comments that Wang Tianchuo's strength is as huge as a monster's. The supervisors are observing from the monitoring room, and one assistant notes that Wang Tianchuo can easily carry a 3,000-kilogram load, worthy of the barbarian god body. She asks Grandmaster Qin when they should find Su Hong to explain the disadvantages of simultaneously cultivating 7 guidance techniques in detail. The old man says they cannot be so direct because geniuses all have their pride, and speaking to them directly will only backfire. He suggests they use some methods to let him understand on his own and give it up voluntarily. He then asks if the arranged Night Raiders have finished assembling. The assistant says it still needs some time to match the combat power of different students, which is a bit troublesome. He notes that the trainees just finished the assessment and have relaxed mindsets, so encountering a night raid suddenly will make them howl in grief. Tianli orders them to arrange a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist for Su Hong, because he wants the boy to be overwhelmingly defeated. He plans to then explain the disadvantages of his cultivation method, so the boy will listen obediently. The assistant is shocked, noting that a Tier 1 high-stage martial artist has over 400 vitality and 5,000 combat power points, while the boy's vitality is only a little over 100. They worry that the boy's Dao heart might collapse from the beating. Qin Tianli calls this nonsense, stating he is doing this to correct Su Hong's mistakes, and that if his Dao heart collapses so easily, then the boy is just a piece of trash. Meanwhile, everyone outside is rushing to watch Wang Tianchuo train in the gravity room. Su arrives to pick up a smart bracelet used for calculating points. He goes to the weight racks and notices that the heaviest one is 10 tons, forged from a super heavy alloy. He wonders who can even wear such a thing. He tries to wear it but finds it far too heavy, realizing it severely affects his speed and he won't last long. He decides the 5-ton weight load is the most suitable for him right now. He puts it on and is still able to move easily. Su Hong wonders how much weight Wang Tianchuo and the other two geniuses chose, assuming that since they are Tier 1 high stage, they should be at least as strong as him. He puts his clothes back on and goes to observe their cultivation methods, hopping to gain some experience. Outside, people are surprised to see Wang Tianchuo enter the gravity room without even taking off his 3-ton weight vest, and even set the gravity to 2x, as it means he is under 6 tons of pressure. Su Hong sees this and thinks he had a bit of a misunderstanding about the toughness of the overlord body, and notes that Wang Tianchuo's 3 tons is actually quite light for him. He then sees Chen Shan and Li Tu standing outside. Su asks why they aren't going into the gravity room to cultivate. They reply that if they enter, they will definitely be singled out for comparison, which is too embarrassing since they are lagging too far behind. Su sighs at this reason and heads into the room himself. His friends ask if he is really going in and if he is not afraid of embarrassing himself. They suggest he wait until there are fewer people before going in. Other warriors mock him, assuming he probably isn't wearing a weight suit and just wants to surpass Wang Tianchuo in terms of the gravity multiplier. Su Hong enters the room, reflecting that a gravity room is extremely expensive to build, and only prominent aristocratic families can afford them. He cannot let this good opportunity slip by. Wearing a 5-ton weight vest in double gravity makes it 10 tons, which he could only hold on to for 10 odd minutes. He decides it is better to set it to 1.5 times so he can last a bit longer. However, the pressure still makes him groan. People watching through the monitor mock him for only punching in 1.5 times gravity without even wearing a weight vest, calling it hilarious. Su Hong begins to meditate, noting that while the heavy pressure makes cultivating a guidance technique more difficult, the cultivation speed has obviously accelerated a lot. 2 hours later, he is still meditating but is completely exhausted. He sees that aside from the thunder and fire guidance techniques, all other guidance techniques leveled up by 1. His vitality even increased from 126 points to 130 points. He turns off the device and struggles to stand up, thinking the gravity room's effect is good and the other facilities probably won't be bad either. He leaves the room exhausted. As he leaves, 2 boys mock him by saying, "Look quickly, the dead last came out so fast." They laugh because he couldn't even handle 1.5 times gravity, even without a weight suit. Su Hong ignores them and starts taking off his shirt, noting that the breathability of the weight suit is too terrible and it is boiling hot. The 2 boys who were just making fun of him are stunned to see the weight suit. They suspect they witnessed it incorrectly, and consider questioning the exact number of kilograms the weight actually weighs. His companion suggests that since Su Hong finished in the last place, the weight is likely only 500 kilograms instead of 5,000. He believes it was something so heavy that it looked like torture for the boy, but it still proves that Su Hong is not entirely weak. They remark that regardless of his effort, he does not compare to Wang Tianchuo at all. At that moment, the crowd begins shouting as Wang Tianchuo exits the room, having withstood 6 tons of heavy pressure for more than 2 hours. They think this is insane, as his physical body strength is definitely number 1 in the training camp. They note that if it were them, they would barely be able to handle a 500-kilogram weight for half an hour. Wang Tianchuo throws the weight on the ground, and the impact leaves everyone in the camp shocked by the heavy thud. He feels relieved, nodding that he finally feels relaxed and light again. His partner admits that he is inferior in terms of strength and asks if they should go to the movement technique room to compete. Wang Tianchuo tells him to stop joking, as the other is a practitioner of an A-rank movement technique and possesses the wind attribute, declaring his brain would have to be broken to compete with him. Su Hong hears about this A-rank movement technique and finds it interesting. Even though the strength of his overlord body is already immense, he is interested in a movement technique of such a high level. Everyone moves to the movement technique training room and is surprised by Lin Xing, who has set the difficulty to the maximum level of 10, while the others can barely reach level 3. Lin moves so fast that eyes can barely follow him for a second. He still has the spare energy to show off as flower petals emerge from somewhere, leaving the crowd wondering where they came from. Su Hong thinks the movement technique is good, and his system starts making progress on the flying swan startling cloud step, as he immediately begins to imitate the essence of Lin, analyzing the movements every second. Su Hong starts walking, drawing the attention of the crowd. He begins to practice the skill and people cannot believe what he is doing. They wonder if he actually thinks he can learn the flying swan startling cloud step just by watching Lin Xing, laughing loudly because they think an A-rank movement technique could not be so easy to learn. Inside his system space, Su Hong repeats the movement hundreds of times, increasing his proficiency until he finally manages to obtain the flying swan startling cloud step at the basic level. He feels relieved since he has finally learned his first A-rank movement technique. However, he finds Lin Xinghe's movements too flashy and showy, which he finds a bit embarrassing. Since he has never seen a normal version of the flying swan startling cloud step, he realizes he can only learn from Lin for now. Having learned the technique, he knows he no longer needs to train in the movement room and can go straight to the ferocious beast room to obtain martial value and raise his vitality. As he leaves the system space, Su Hong is startled and wonders why everyone is staring at him. While the crowd says his posture was incredibly showy and had the essence of Lin Xinghe, nodding that it was too flashy. He simply cannot believe that he was performing those showy movements in the real world while he was learning them inside the system. Embarrassed, he runs and thinks that he absolutely cannot use Lin Xinghe as a template in the future. As he runs, people beg him to perform the move again, shouting that he was exploding with handsomeness just now. At that moment, he realizes someone is following him. The duo from before have finally found him and are seeking revenge. They notice he is heading to the ferocious beast room and decide to block the door, planning to give him a few vicious blows when he comes out. At the ferocious beast room, Wang Tianchuo asks Xiao Yan if she really wants to compete to see who is number one in the training camp by killing beasts. He asks if she thinks she can beat his barbarian god body by relying on spiritual telekinesis, accusing her of underestimating him, but she retorts that he is the one underestimating the power of a spirit master. Su Hong watches and thinks it is interesting to see a spirit master's fighting method since he has never seen one in person, so he decides to watch first and earn martial value later. On the big screen, he sees her floating out of thin air, which surprises him because walking on air is a method only grandmasters possess, and he wonders if a spirit master can do that. She gathers energy in her hand and fires streams of flowing light that simultaneously kill 3 Tier 1 high-stage black tigers. Su Hong finds this incredible but wonders what those rays of light are. At that moment, a much larger tiger roars and attacks from behind, but she uses spiritual telekinesis to forcibly bind and control it in the air. She then uses her power again and kills the tiger. Su Hong realizes those streaks of flowing light were actually daggers. He notes that every spirit master is ridiculously strong and can easily crush ordinary martial artists. Suddenly, someone shouts, questioning what the deal is with the giant sword they are seeing. Xiao Yan materializes a massive weapon and with a single strike cuts a giant python beast in half. Su Hong is shocked by the power, nodding she was not holding a weapon before and that such a huge blade must weigh several tons. Lin Xinghe appears and says this is a martial skill belonging to spirit masters that is as high as A-rank. The crowd is amazed as they have never heard of such a thing. Since Lin and Xiao have A-rank martial skills, they soon deduce that Wang Tianchuo must also have an offensive A-rank technique. Lin confirms that Wang has an offensive A-rank skill too, while the crowd remarks that they are all monsters. Su Hong is excited that the training camp is crowded with A-rank martial skills and is certain he came to the right place. Wang Tianchuo also kills high-level beasts, blowing them up with one punch. When one guy asks what skill Wang used, another replies, "What martial skill? This is just his pure physical strength." Su Hong notes that the guy is using just his pure physical strength and does not seem to have any intention of using martial skills. He decides he will find a chance to learn from him next time. Right now, he wants to become a spirit master, but his spirit stat is only 26.5. He notes that one needs to exceed 100 points to become a spirit master, so he is still short 73.5 points. He becomes motivated to go on a killing spree to gain the 735 points of martial value he needs. The duo see Su Hong entering the room and decide to follow him. They note that everyone else is focused on Wang Tianchuo and Xiao Yan, so it is the perfect opportunity to ruthlessly beat the kid up. However, they are shocked when they look at the monitor. They see Su Hong is challenging more than 10 Tier 1 high-stage ferocious beasts at once and wonder if he is crazy.